Peace, love, and light. Welcome to the existence changing experience that is the Institute of Biblical Studies and Higher Consciousness. And I am the founder, the teacher, the pastor here, Pastor Walker, your guide on the path to spiritual excellence and evolution. Certainly, we give all honor and esteem to the Creator of all for the life spark, for the health and strength that we enjoy and take for granted, for all the many blessings or gifts given from above and sustenance of life, longevity, peace, love, and harmony. We're grateful for every blessing of the word and inspiration that comes as a result of receiving the word, for correcting our actions and growing in greater wisdom, intelligence, and power. You know, there are so many things that are going on in the world that even today, and so many people place so much focus on the things that President Trump is doing and all the things that are transpiring with ICE and all that other stuff that's taking place. But don't be dismayed because a lot of this stuff is just a script. It is agendas and motions that are put in place for a particular purpose, mainly to deceive the public and to entrap us in a mindset of fear and division. Now, there's nothing that we can do about the plans that they're carrying out because they have the power and influence and money to do as such. But one thing that we can do, we can always work on ourselves, elevate our consciousness, do what we can to put ourselves in a position to counter, not exactly counter, but to be able to adapt to the things that are coming down the pike. You know, they put a lot of emphasis on, oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, these things must happen for Christ to come back. Well, contrary to popular belief, Christ has come back. And a lot of people have missed it. These are the things of the tribulation, so-called tribulation period, that are taking place. But Yahweh, Jesus said this, that even when we were hearing the wars and rumors of wars and all of the stuff that transpired, he said the end is still not near. So don't even get your panties in a bunch. Don't get all upset. Don't get discouraged and dismayed. Continue to grow and elevate yourself and secure your being in this realm in regards to survival. Everything else will just fall out or work itself out. And certainly, we're grateful for every opportunity to share the word and for the messages that are coming forth. Today we got another great one, I believe. Something that a lot of people don't even talk about. There's something that's the beginning of the origin of religion as we know it. But before we get into all of that, I'm gonna go ahead and affirm us in, and then we're gonna go ahead and roll into the way of the topic that we have. Not gonna promise that I'm gonna finish it today. That might be a part two. So let us affirm. Creator of all, we give all esteem and glory and honor to you, and we're thankful for the life spark, the energy that we possess, the power, the wisdom, the intelligence, the eternal being that resides within this inanimate object that we call a body, that is only animated by the spirit and the soul that drives it. We're grateful for all things manifested towards us that we need and desire. That no fear dwells here, but only success, strength, and honor, prosperity and peace, excellent health, and all the things that will keep us in sound mind and body. We're grateful for the word that is coming, the revelations that come forth, for the awakening of this last time, for these that will get up in the spirit and ascend, that we may transcend this life, this dimension. We're grateful for the manifesting of the gifts of the eternal, for the things that we need are supplied and desires of the heart are granted. We humble ourselves and confess that we have no sin, and for every transgression of universal law or divine law that we transgress, we repent that we may align, improve, and excel. I humbly ask that you will think through my mind and speak through my mouth those things which are beneficial for the edification of those listening. And we're grateful for traditional walls of bondage of the mind, soul, and spirit being torn down, and hearts and minds being made free, that we may not only enjoy this life, but the life to come. All I speak these things in the name of the Creator, that it may come before the throne of the Most High Power. So be it. Again, welcome to the Existence Changing Experience. That is the Institute of Biblical Studies and Higher Consciousness. Again, I'm Pastor Walker, your guide to the next level. As I endeavor to go higher, I endeavor to share everything that I can. Don't proclaim to know it all. I might not even know half of what most may know. But that which I do know and I do research and find out, I do endeavor to share. Because I signed on for the mission in this life. And sometimes we have a mind to think how our mission is supposed to be according to how others achieve their mission. But sometimes your mission and the way it looks is the way it was intended, at least for the moment, until it's ready to take on another form. So I'm grateful for humble beginnings and for excellent end. So today's lesson topic is one that deals with the birth of organized religion as we know it. Because in ancient times, there was no such thing as religion. Religion ultimately came into being through the Roman Empire and the establishment of the Catholic Church. But we want to touch on that a little bit as we continue on in this next lesson topic. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson topics thus far, and I hope that they have been of a help and an encouragement to you and an enlightenment to you, because it's not just about the subject, but it's about the meat within the subject, because some things come out that weren't intended to come out, information that we need to know. And I try my best to keep it in alignment with those topics. But when it comes to truth, it's a whole lot of information out here, and we're in the age of Aquarius, where all knowledge and information where we have been deceived of, to including the extraterrestrial sightings that they're seeing on a more constant basis. These different species of animals and looking like fairy tale beings that are coming out. One thing we have to remember, that there are people in this world that know, that intimately know the ancient arts and the technology and science that existed before all these major resets. Because every time they reset this world, memories are wiped and new knowledge is fed into the survivors. And that's where we get all of these traditions and stuff from. But when you look at the ancient megalithic uh, sites and all that kind of stuff, Stonehenge, and you never ask, how did these things come to be? How are they so perfectly balanced and set in place, geometrically and scientifically and energetic wise? And you have CERN in Switzerland that have one of the largest machines to create portals in the world. So they're constantly blending realities because there's a specific one that they're looking for. Just like in Avengers, was the Infinite Infinite War or something like that. When Doctor Strange was going through all the scenarios of how they beat Thanos, and out of several million, he only found one. And then in Endgame, Tony was like, "Man, this better be the one." And he was like, "I can't tell you, or it's gonna mess it up." But before Tony Stark took the stones from Thanos, he threw him that hint like, "Hey, this the one." And unfortunately, Tony Stark had to give his life in that universe to make way for this new Avengers movie that's coming out, Doomsday. But CERN opens up those portals, and they're blurring the lines, and certain things are changing. And a lot of people are noticing the Mandela effect, so to speak, when you know that things were one way, just like the guy was pointing out the other day. It used to just be Home Depot. Now it's the Home Depot. When it became the Home Depot, I never seen any uh, advertisement or notification that they were doing that. They were changing the name. You know why? Because they are tampering with timelines. And I know that that sounds strange, but if you begin to look into quantum physics and look into CERN and all of these things, you will know that different things. That's why the time span is speeding up, because they're trying to achieve a reality to keep the chosen ones in bondage. And we're not talking about no Hebrew Israelites. For those of you that when you hear that, you think, "Oh, I'm an Israelite and I'm a chosen." No, it's not that. I don't care what religion you in. It ain't got nothing to do with you being the chosen one. Chosen ones are not just one color. Chosen ones are not just one religion. They are ones that have incarnated in this world for a particular purpose from the divine. And once they achieve their purpose, they're sent out of here. And their purpose is to help others to remember who they were, to remember who they are, and to uh, get out of here. So, with all that said, let's go into the next topic for the day. For those of you who have your Bibles, your laptops, your iPhones, your iPads, iPods, Samsungs, however way that you're reading the scriptures, your books, or viewing this video, go with me to James, the first chapter, verses 25 to 27. James 1, 25 to 27 says this: "But whosoever looketh into the perfect law of liberty, the perfect law of freedom," okay, "and continueth therein." Now, whosoever looks into the perfect law of liberty, whosoever tries to find the perfect law of freedom and continue in it, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. Not a forgetful hearer, not one that turn their ear away from the truth when they hear it, when they receive it. There are some truths that are so spectacular that it makes people shut down. And because they refuse to receive those truths, they think the truth bearer is crazy, out of their mind, wacko, all of the above. But it doesn't take away from the truth. Why? Because their brain is not ready to process it. But whosoever looketh, whosoever searches for the perfect law of freedom and continues in it, when they find it, being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, working themselves into the following, until the alignment of the perfect law of liberty, is blessed indeed. And I don't even say blessed, because that word blessed comes from two words: be lessed, but shall be fortunate, I'm going to use, in his deed, prosperous in his deed. Verse 26: "If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridle it not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is in vain." It says, if any man seems to be religious and can't control his mouth or her mouth, can't say the right things, can't stop talking about folks, can't stop slandering others, can't stop speaking negativity, can't stop pronouncing curses, and so on and thus forth, etc., etc. Deceives their own heart, and their religion is in vain. Hold on for a second. Something I forgot to put in there. But let's look at it. Grateful for my trusty laptop. Religion. Now, the belief and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially God or gods. I forgot to do that. I can't believe I forgot to put that in there. I know it's going to throw me. I'm going to have to go back and add it later because I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of changes. It's going to throw it off now. Throw my paper off. But it says, any man among you that seems to have a belief and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially God or gods, right? But can't bridle their own tongue, can't control their own tongue, their mouth, their religion is in vain. Their belief in that superhuman power or powers or God or gods is in vain. Religion, a particular system of faith or worship. Those are the two definitions for that. So any man that is within a particular system of faith and worship and cannot bridle or control his tongue, that man's religion is in vain by definition. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction and to keep thyself unspotted from the world. Unspotted, blameless. That don't mean that you can't exist in this world, because you gotta exist in this world. That's why the word says to be in the world but not of it. That's different between the two. You have to utilize commerce so that you can survive in this world. You got to have somewhere to stay. You need to be entertained every time or two. You have necessities and needs and desires. There's nothing in the scripture to say you can't have those things, but it says to be unspotted. To be unspotted from the influences, the spells, the things of this world. Not to go and run around the building all day shouting and screaming and hollering and snotting and bringing your money to the preacher. But to keep yourself unspotted from the influences of this world, which brings us to our lesson topic, because this lesson topic unveils the things that we experience in life. The lesson topic of the day: cargo cults. In parentheses, that's cargo cults, CARGOCULTS. In parentheses, the cornerstone of religion. Cargo cults, the cornerstone of religion. Now, there's a man called Billy Carson, Forbidden Knowledge, okay? He talks about how these cargo cults came into being. We're going to touch on that. I never heard of a cargo cult. But these cargo cults turn into a lot of religious beliefs. But according to James, if you're not looking into the perfect law of liberty, the complete law of liberty, and continuing in that, seeming to be in a system of worship, of a superhuman of powers, or a superpower of powers, or God and gods, the religious system of worship, and not control your mouth, because your mouth, your tongue, is the writer of your reality. You don't believe me? Okay. Thank you, Spirit of Mind, for bringing me that inspiration. Let me see if this will bring it up. Because these changes in the scriptures, sometimes we be looking for stuff, and because they're messing with the timelines. Oh, you know what? Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Okay, let me try this. Bear with me for a second. This is still real time. Let me see if AI can find it. Let me see. Psalms 45:1. Let me see that. Yes. Psalms 45, verse 1. Because I said that your mouth, your tongue, is the writer of your reality. My heart is intending a good matter. I speak of the things which I have made touching the king. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer, which means whatsoever I speak, I bring into reality. Because a sheet of paper is blank until you take an ink pen and write on that baby to put words on it. Your life, every step of your life is blank until you, with your mouth, write into existence the reality spoken from within your heart and your mind, from your thoughts. That's why he said, my heart is intending a good matter. In other words, I got to make my heart, I got to put my heart in a positive place. My emotions have to be positive. I speak of the things which I have made, touching the king. I speak of the things which I have made. I've talked about, I've spoken to existence the things that exist in my life, the things which I have made. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer. My tongue is the pen. So if you can't control your tongue and you're experiencing adverse situations in your life, if you're experiencing lack in your life, confusion, chaos in your life, you need to check the words that you're saying. It don't mean nothing to say that you believe in Jesus and God and Allah and Yahweh, Yehoshua, Yahshua, Yeshua, all them shuahs. If your tongue is saying the wrong thing, but religion will cause you to say the wrong thing, which is why we're dealing with cargo codes. But say if you can't bridle your tongue, your religion is in vain. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is visit the fathers and the widows in their affliction. Go see about somebody else and help them out their situation. Shut your mouth and be about the action. And keep yourself unspotted from the influences of this world. But you got to know the influences. You have to be able to recognize them influences in order to keep yourself unspotted from them. Now, we talked about religion. Let's go into what a cargo cult is. Cargo cults. Cargo cults emerged from Melanesia after encountering technology, advanced cultures like World War II soldiers, blended indigenous beliefs with Christian elements, creating unique religions focused on receiving cargo, in parentheses, goods, through rituals, leaning to syncretism, new messianic figures, for example, John Frum, and sometimes mimicking Western practices like building airstrips, influencing local faiths by demonstrating how ritual can aim for material and spiritual reward. We just got done talking about rituals. Even as an anti-colonial expression of hope for dignity and autonomy. Now, this word goes back further than Melanesia. This act or deed goes, and we're going to talk about it as we continue on. You just got to stay tuned. It goes deeper than that. It comes from a more ancient place than that. But it's still the same process that's repeated over and over and over again. And the key words were encountering technologically advanced cultures. Bam. That's what's going to take us to that point when we get to it. Now, when we talk about the establishment of religion, it's basically when one culture supersedes another in technology and even in combat, and they reprogram the people to follow, or the people begin to see them superior and begin to worship them, follow their rule. All right. So, and how do cargo cults influence religion? Syncretism, right? Syncretism, Syncretism. Cargo cults merge traditional Melanesian animisms and ancestor worship with Christian concepts. In parentheses, example, messiahs, divine gifts, salvation, so on. Creating hybrid belief systems. And we're going to deal with the Christian concepts because that is the one that started it all in regards to current religious factions of today. Messianic figures. They often center around charismatic prophets and claim divine messages, promising the return of ancestors or powerful figure like, in parentheses, John Frum or Jesus or Yahweh, Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yahshua, and all them other shuas, to bring abundant cargo similar to Christian messianic expectations. Ritual innovation. Beliefs led to specific rituals, for example, marching, flag raising, building mock runways and airports, intended to attract cargo, mirroring perceived Western practices, but attributing them to spiritual forces. It's a lot deeper than that, folks. We just ain't got to the rabbit hole yet. Material and spiritual goals. They sought earthly rewards, goods of prosperity, alongside spiritual fulfillment, blurring the lines between material desire and religious longing, a concept seen in Christianity's prosperity gospel. Anti-colonialism. For many, these movements were spiritual responses to colonial oppression, using religious frameworks to regain dignity and self-determination against foreign powers. Or you just been invaded by a foreign power and have their religious acts thrusted upon you altogether, i.e., so-called slavery. Ancient melanated people ain't know nothing about no Jesus. They ain't know nothing about no Yahweh, Yehoshua, Yahshua, Yeshua, and all them other Shuas. They ain't know nothing about no Yahweh, no God. They ain't know nothing about that. Not no God with no name. Proto-nationalism. Some cults evolved into local political organizations, using shared rituals to foster unity and collective identity, foreshadowing modern nationhood. Now, some examples of influence. We mentioned John Frum, JOHNFRUM movement, John Frum movement, Vanuatu, a prominent cult focused on the promised return of John Frum, an American spirit who brings goods and prosperity, often challenging Christian dominance. Prince Philip movement, Vanuatu. The worship of Britain's Prince Philip as a divine figure, highlighting the deification of Western figures within these cults. In essence, cargo cults offer a unique lens on how belief systems adapt, incorporating new cultural elements like Western goods and figures into existing religious frameworks to address deep-seated needs for meaning, prosperity, and independence. And let's not leave out world dominance and control. Themes supporting cargo cult beliefs. Now, you look at your religion and mirror it to this. The promise of a return or second coming, the Christian narratives of Jesus' return and the establishment of a new paradise was often reinterpreted as a return of the ancestors or spirits with cargo. In my Father's house, there are many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. Prosperity, material rewards. The prosperity gospel, which focuses on God providing material wealth, is often compared to cargo cult beliefs that God or the spirits will deliver material goods. Now realizing that you manifest into existence those things from your subconscious being. Rules for blessing. Some followers believe that they have to follow strict commandments, such as the 10 Commandments. God will reward them with health, wealth, and success. Health, wealth, and success. Again, religion leads you to give your energy, give your power to beings and deities, outside of yourself. So if you never achieve in life the things that you desire to have, the cop out is, well, God didn't want me to have that. It wasn't my time. Or your faith wasn't, you didn't have enough faith. You doubted too much. Or that's a sin in your life that your God found you not worthy of that. Or he knew that at that particular time in your life that you were not wise enough to utilize. Come on. All of these lies for excuses for God outside of you. So when do your God see you worthy? When you getting up, working everything, working your fingers to the bone, doing your best to be a righteous person, giving your last to help other people, getting abused by other people and letting it slide. When will your God see you worthy? When will you see yourself worthy? Because that's the question. That's the answer to the riddle. See yourself worthy and receive it. But these cargo cults, this religious, it gets you outside of self. It gets you, God is inside of you. How many times, Yahweh, Jesus got to tell you, the kingdom of heaven is within. I and the Father are one. You and the Father are one. It has nothing to do with authoritative ranking. It has everything to do with a classification of who you are. There are many humans. We're all human beings. But some human beings are made kings, government officials. Some humans are poor. Some have a little. Some are rich. But we're all human. So you being one with the Father, He is spirit, it is spirit, you are spirit. Your essence comes from the creator of all. It is not robbery to be kind of equal, because the same power that flows from the divine flows through you. But you're giving it to a God outside of you. Because of these cargo codes and religion. Let's take a look at Matthew, the 24th chapter, verse 5. Because we're still talking about these cargo codes. Example, Christianity is the biggest production from cargo codes known today. Matthew 24 and 5. For many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you have excuse me, and you got fools leading congregations. This last fool called himself the modern day Noah and predicted a flood and had people giving up all of their life substance, retirement, and all of that so that he could build a freaking ark for a flood that didn't come. Not only did it not come, but he took the money and bought a damn Mercedes Benz. Excuse my French. Because it pisses me off that how these wolves in sheep clothing. Now everybody mad at Drewski because Drewski did a video making fun of all the antics that the Christian pastors be doing that you can find on video. Now they trying to sue him for mirroring the tomfoolery that Christian leaders are doing. Now, when he was making fun of the Hebrew Israelites, they was laughing at that. But all of y'all, Hebrew Israelite, Christian pastors, all of y'all, stop. Well, I almost said something. But you need to quit it. Because you're taking advantage of people. You're taking advantage of people and hurting their lives. You are mockery. But you got the nerve and audacity to say that God is not pleased. No, God is not pleased with you. God is not pleased with your conduct, which is why people like Drewski is able to come out and mock you, because you're a mockery to holiness, to righteousness. You leading people astray and destroying their lives at the price of eternal gain. But yeah, many may say that I am Christ and deceive many. And you got people doing foolishness because they believe in leaders that are not worthy to be spit on. People are suffering financial lack. People are losing their homes. Marriages are falling apart because you got wicked men in places that they should not be. Leave Drewski alone and get your life right. Mark the 7th chapter, verse 6 through 8. There's people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. These men are teaching their own doctrines and throwing God on it, throwing Jesus on it, throwing Yahweh on it, throwing Yehoshua, Yeshua, and all them other Shuahs on it. Adding 100 on 10. You don't need a religious leader to live your life righteously. There are a lot of people that are not in religion that live righteous lives and are prosperous and successful at it. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. Some will depart from the faith by devoting themselves to deceitful spirits and teaching the demons. Now, they'll take this scripture and apply that to me because I'm talking against religion. But what I'm teaching you is to be pure for yourself, to be righteous in yourself, to believe in yourself, to be in touch with the God within. No, you cannot live a reckless and revelry life and come to the epitome of perfection in the spirit. But it's a process. And we're all on this road together. That's why Yahweh Jesus said, if any man among you, he that is first, that without sin, cast the first stone. Because nobody can accuse the other person. But we are all imperfect. I don't want to say imperfect. We're all vessels on the road or path to a greater consciousness and perfection. Galatians, first chapter, verses 6-9, warns against following a different gospel. That's where all your wars come from. That's where they all come from. If they ain't teaching it like we teaching it, then they liars. They're not keeping the Sabbath the way we keeping it. They're not worshiping God the way we worship God. We can't have nothing to do with them. Their leader is a charlatan. All of this stuff that keeps us divided. But 2 Timothy 3:1-5 warns us about these false teachers. But getting back to the cargo codes, let me give you an example. Excuse me for always misunderstand. You guys remember Men in Black, right? Okay, after Agent J, after Will Smith becomes Agent J, right? Tommy Lee Jones, Agent K, takes him to this train station where he had a locker that he had left a clue for himself in the locker. Inside the locker, there was this little ecosystem of little beings in there that looked at Agent K as a god. They are the equivalent to a cargo code. He left a watch in there, which gave them light. He left cards or tracks, as we used to call them back in the day, in there with information on them. The high priest memorized the little track that he left, the little card he left in there, and it became their commandments. And they lived their life religiously according to that little card. Until K took it with him and took the watch with him so that him and Jay could stop the threat coming to the earth. And when he took the watch, it left them in darkness. But Jay had pity on him and took his new watch off and put it in the locker so they had light again. So they went from worshiping K to worshiping J. And that's what happens when you're in a religion. It stems from the worship of one God and many gods until certain gods. And the victors of history are the ones that write the gods in the history that make everybody else for the longest. Gods had names. They had characteristics and characters until the Catholic Church came along and created a God with no name and gave you Jesus. And all of those gods of the ancient times represented different attributes within you. They were just put in a form so that men could associate. And they took that and wrote a nameless God in. How the world can God be a name and a title, a verb? I mean, an adjective. Now the name Yahweh, Yahweh, and all that's been coming out for years, and that still ain't the name of the creator of all. But we're going to get into the God of this world. We're going to get into that. I just got a little more research and studying to do, but we're going to get into the God of this world that you're worshiping blindly. But he that has the technology, he that has the military might, is he that governs. And every so-called African Americans, and I say so-called because we ain't from no Africa, we're indigenous to this land. Our genetics are completely different from an African, even though we're all melanated people. But Christianity was thrown upon us. Thrown upon us. We didn't know nothing about no God, no Jesus when we came to earth. We received what was regurgitated from our parents from previous passing down from slavery. Jesus was whooped into melanated people. And we were brainwashed from our original state of consciousness until what we have today. All coming from cargo coats. All coming from cargo coats. Now, I'm gonna touch on how all of this came into being because I said it was more ancient than the Melanesians. Okay, it happened at a time when there was a planet called Nibiru, and the beings that were on it were considered or called the Anunnaki. Now, you can be mad all you want to when I use this word Anunnaki, but Anunnaki is in your Bible, and I'm gonna read the scriptures where they're referenced because most of what we have today in religion came from them or the worship of them. The Anunnaki became worshipped as gods in ancient Mesopotamia because the Sumerians, which were before the Hebrews, the Greeks, the Romans, and all them other nations that rose up later. And Hebrews are not a nation. We're going to go into that too. The Sumerians, the Akkadians, and the Babylonians viewed them as powerful celestial beings. That is why the hieroglyphs tell their story. Who created humanity? Oh, we're going to touch on that. Govern the world and control destiny, attributing their advanced knowledge and world ordering actions to divine power, building temples or ziggurats for them, and creating statues and focal points for rituals to gain favor and guidance for harvests, empires, and the afterlife. Those things that you read in Genesis about Cain and Abel bringing the animals and the fruits and vegetables before God wasn't God. It was the Anunnaki. Created statues of focal points of rituals to gain favor and guidance for harvests, empires, and the afterlife. Their worship stemmed from myths describing them as offspring of the sky god Anu. Anu was the king of Nibiru, and the earth goddess Ki, or Kai, as they call it. With key figures like Enlil, the air chief god, and Enki, the god of wisdom, his brother, his older brother, shaping creation, interacting with humans. Now, Nibiru, their atmosphere was failing, and they needed gold in order to reinforce, just like we have the ozone layer, they had something similar. And they went on a quest for gold. But the asteroid belt, the asteroid belt was dangerous, and it kept them from going too far away out of the Nibiru. That was a king. I can't remember his name right now. But before Anu became king, he was the king. And Anu challenged him for the throne and beat him in ritual combat, just like on Black Panther. And when he defeated him in ritual combat, he expelled that king from Nibiru. As a matter of fact, he exiled the king, and the king stole a ship and went to Earth, or headed toward Earth, because he had found a planet that was rich in gold. And he took a chance on braving the asteroid belt to get here so that he can gain favor with Anu and potentially either come back to Nibiru and take the throne back, or become the king of this new planet that he found. So he sends a message back to Anu. Anu counsels with his sons, Enki and Enlil. Enki is the son of a concubine. Enlil was the son of pure blood, because Anu was married to his sister. And they decided to follow the law of the blood instead of the law of the eldest heir. That's why Enki was not the prince in line for the throne of Nibiru, even though he was the older brother to Enlil. So Anu commissions Enlil and Enki to come to Earth to see what this man found and to begin the excavation activity to be able to get Earth, the gold from Earth, and send it back to Nibiru. That is why they designed the different pyramids with the different energy focal points in the stargates, so they can go past the asteroid belt via Mars, and come to Earth. So they should go from Earth to Mars and from Mars to Nibiru. They had what was called the Ijiji. The Ijiji were indentured servants that they promised that, hey, when we go to this new world, sounds familiar, so-called American history. When we go to this new world, we need y'all to mine this gold for us, but we're gonna give you a portion in this new world that we in. Well, the mining took too doggone long, and the Gigi, because I'm fast forwarding it, began to get weary of all this doggone hard labor to no end, and they threatened war. So when Enki and Enlil and Anu and all them took counsel, Enki came up with an idea. He said, there's a hominid, a being that lives on this planet. It looks like an animal, but it's not an animal. I believe that we could take our DNA and put it with that hominid and create workers. This is where in the Bible they say, and God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And they begin a scientific process of artificial assimilation to create being, but they came out deformed at first because they was trying to get the hominid to carry the seed. So they were coming out misshapen. They couldn't hold the weapons and the tools and stuff. They didn't have the intelligence of the Anunnaki. So Enki came up with an idea. Look, let's take her egg and plant it with Anunnaki seed, and one of our women, which is his sister, Anana, carried the first child to term, 10 months. And they called him Adamu. So they began to multiply this effort by getting other Anunnaki women to carry these children. And from that, Tiamat was made. And so on and thus forth. Adamu and Tiamat were the prototypes. They went from cloning or going through this because the process was lengthy. And they only have so many women to have these babies. So they modified us. Not only did they make us look like them, give us their ability, they gave us the ability to procreate on a greater scale, and they put in our DNA, or Inky did, secretly, the ability to surpass them genetically once we tap into the God within. Now, I'm just giving you a little bit of that, but you can get the Lost Book of Inky, and some of this in the Nag Hammadi scriptures. But when it says, let us make man in our image, it ain't had nothing to do with the Most High. It ain't had nothing to do with the Creator of all. They modified the being that is you, or your ancestors, the line that you came through. I know it's hard to believe, but search it out. So the Anunnaki, when these people when they began to really populate, they were working the mines to free the Ijiji. So they took the Ijiji from Earth and put them on Mars, because you ain't needed on Earth no more. Because these people are multiplying, and they are mining this gold for us. Now, the only problem is, and Lil didn't really like them because they were noisy. They was copulating all over the place. They was getting it in. And he had a disdain for mankind, but Inky had pity on them. So there are scholars that believe that when you see God being wrathful, that's Enlil. But when you see him being loving, that's Inky. Now, when Inky revealed to Adamu and Tiamat, okay, who they really were, hence when God was looking for Adam in the in the garden, the serpent, Inky told Adamu who he really was and what he really was. So by the time Enlil came along, Adamu is not afraid of Enlil no more. Why? Because I know that I have the potential to be more powerful than you. Something changed in him. And when Enlil realized that, he got upset and said, who told you this? And Inky was like, I told him, brother. That's why they said in the Bible, the serpent, because the serpent in ancient times was classified as a symbol of wisdom. Inky was the god of wisdom. So he revealed the secret to Adamu and Tiamat of who they are and what they are. But when man began to bring their offerings, they began to farm the animal. They taught them how to farm the animals, grow crops, and they began to bring all these things to the Anunnaki in tribute and worship them as gods. Why? Because they rode on advanced technological vehicles. But that's the beginning of your cargo codes. Now I'm gonna give you that little bit and let you chew on that. Research it, look it up. And then we're gonna pick up next week. Because I'm gonna go into some specific Anunnaki beings outside of Enlil and Enki. That's in the Bible. They trying to write it all different now. But I got a book by Karen Armstrong called A Search for God. Get that book. She's going to talk about this character. I'm going to see if I can pull that book out and read about him to you, to your face next week. This has been the Existence Changing Experience that is the Institute of Biblical Studies and Higher Consciousness. Man, I'm so excited about this word. I am Pastor Walker, and it is my pleasure to give to you the knowledge as it comes to me. And let's affirm out. Creative all, we're grateful for this word, for this lesson topic. We're grateful for the knowledge and information that comes forth. We're grateful for growth and spiritual elevation and empowerment. And as we depart from this Zoom, but never from your presence, we pray that you go with us and keep us till we come together again. I speak these names in the name of the Creator, that it may come before the Most High Power. So be it. May the Creator bless you and keep you. May He cause His countenance. May the Creator prosper and keep you. May He cause His countenance to fall upon you and be gracious to you. May He show you His mercy and be you His peace. Excuse that little stumble. I got to rearrange that. I just realized that certain words don't need to go there. But peace, love, and light. We're going to see you next week for more of the same. Thanks for tuning in.